We recently went from not knowing who the Women's World Cup host will be to knowing the next three. The first one, the one in Brazil, it felt like it was a thorough process. But I don't know. My initial reaction when I heard to these last two that were just announced a couple days ago was that it felt rushed. So let's explore if my initial feeling was right or was it wrong? I found it very strange after the last Women's World Cup that we didn't know who the next Women's World Cup host would be. But then finally last year, FIFA chose Brazil. It was a fairly contested fight about who was going to host. And there was two bids. Brazil, which of course was the winner, and then there was a joint bid between Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium, making Brazil the first country in South America to host the Women's World Cup, which I think will be really good in expanding the women's side of the game in South America, a region that is very obsessed with football. So now they can become even more obsessed with women's football. And they've had great players who have come from South America, the biggest one being Martha. But now let's go to the present. This year, recently, a couple days ago, they announced the next two hosts after that. So we went from not knowing who the next host was to knowing who the next three will be. They announced that the United States would host the one after that, and then the UK would host the following. As I mentioned earlier, my initial reaction was that everything about this felt rushed. Now here's some more information about those two bids. For the United States one, the United States was the only country that was in the running for hosting, as well as the UK for the following one. The one that the UK won the bid, they gave countries only 26 days to submit a bid, which is very little time, and the UK had shown interest about hosting that World Cup days prior, so they submitted it really quickly. So there was no competition to be the host of these two World Cups. I guess if you look at it, the last Men's World Cup kind of got chosen the same way. The one that's coming up after the one in the United States, Mexico, and Canada one. The one that's going to be in Portugal, Spain, as well as Morocco, and with opening games in Paraguay, Argentina, and Uruguay. That one didn't have much competition as well, and it was very abrupt, and so was the one in Saudi Arabia after that. That one felt like one of the most abrupt World Cup. So this might not be something about FIFA more so doing this to the women's game, but doing it to the World Cup hosting selection in general. Now there could potentially be a couple of reasons for that. One of them being that less countries might be showing interest in hosting international event. I know that's a story that's been talked about with Olympics, which huge elephant cost of building new stadiums. Less countries might be willing to be the host, but if you have the infrastructure like the UK and the United States, that's less of an issue. Or it might just be a different policy that FIFA is doing. But I guess now we know where the next Women's World Cups will be if you do plan on attending those down far in the future.